And I think for Jane, I think that's my question also, because if we want to look at this thing properly, by and large, the number crunchers, the people who are looking at these numbers, the estimates, that word that they love to use, the estimates and all of this, is not the CS. Is not the CS Treasury.
Yeah.
There is a whole battalion of people who sit, they watch, they look at these numbers all the time. They take the budgets that have come from the different departments of government and they say, okay, this is what you want to do in the next year. Let's see where we're going to get this money from, essentially. They crunch the numbers. They're economists. They are statisticians. They are logistics people. They know all of this thing. So if you're looking at a really progressive economy, because I guess that is what the goal is. In whose interest is it to increase taxes, whereby you are looking towards a progressive economy when you want to have your focus on SMEs, for example, MSMEs, for example, the ones that we know foolproof are the ones who build an economy around the world? Why would you do anything that would be counterproductive? That's the word that we've used in this room already. Why would you, as this battalion of people who know it better than anybody else, deliver a budget, deliver a finance bill that would be counterproductive to a progressive economy if there was no external hand? There's my conspiracy.
Yeah, and you are right. And before I just respond to your question, on this question of Metuba, which we need to be careful on, is that the document, and you mentioned it, the document that came from Parliament do not have this tax on Metuba.
Yes.
But yesterday when the minister was giving his speech, he actually said they are going to introduce it. Remember, they can only introduce it if the public come with that proposal. Otherwise, the government have already given its proposals, and that proposal is not there. Therefore, unless the public come and say that we think that you can get additional taxes on this particular element, that is the only way they can introduce. And remember, that Committee for Finance and National Planning always table that report to say so and so said that we tax Metubas. So who is going to say that? So that becomes very tricky, and particularly the fact that we are going to election next year is unlikely that this proposal will come through. But now coming to your question, I think the biggest issue is that we are moving our budget every year and trying to grow the budget every year. Last year we were at 4.2 trillion. This year now we are so ambitious we want to go to 4.2. But this 4.2 is what we intend to spend. And if then we then rely on what Dr. Gashi have mentioned, the finance bit of the Finance Act that are already in place, that we continue to pay taxes, it means we can only collect to the tune of the 2.7, for example, what we are collecting this year. If then we need additional taxes, we have two elements only. Either we increase the tax rates or increase the taxes, or we then enhance compliance. We assume that there are people who are not paying taxes and therefore we need to enhance that. Perhaps we have gotten to saturation level and we cannot be able to increase additional taxes. So what the government is saying, for example, it needs the question you talked about, mobile phones. They were being charged excess duty at 10%. And now the minister is saying we need to collect 25%. Listening to him yesterday, he was saying that they're only increasing excise to 25%, and then they'll drop all the other taxes. Which are the other taxes? The other taxes are import duty, there is VAT and all the rest. But for import duty, we have to have it from an East Africa gazettement. That have to be agreed by the East Africa community. So for now, even the minister himself cannot guarantee that they are going to remove the import duty on mobile phones. And that is not anywhere in the bill. So for now, those are perhaps theories and we wait to see. But the fact of the matter is that the cost of then mobile phones will then increase. There's a good question you asked about the leases and why you are going to pay, you are going to be around the 10 million. And I just wanted to add a comment there. It's really not an additional tax, or it's not a new tax. The thin capitalization have been there, that you can only be allowed the interest expense up to a tune of 30%. What they are doing is just an amendment where it had leases and it had two conditionals for you to to achieve. And what they did is just to remove that add, so that they just put all. So it's not an additional taxes per se. It's just a clarification, that the finance bill is doing. But for us, to make sure that we continue to support the SMEs, as you have mentioned, the option is we perhaps enhance compliance, make sure that everybody is paying their share of taxes. If, for example, in Kenya we are perhaps, we have more than 18% perhaps 18 million people who can pay taxes, who has some form of revenue. But out of that, maybe only about 6 million people pay taxes. So if only 6 million people pay taxes and we then end up achieving 2.7 trillion, what about if we increase these 6 million people to about even 10 million people? Perhaps then we don't need to increase the taxes. We will then be able to correct the 2.7 with the additional people paying taxes. So sometimes there's a bit of catch-22, I would say. But what the government is doing, one, the people given a responsibility to ensure that everybody pays taxes, there are loopholes there. And if those loopholes then can be sealed, then we should not be able to struggle with this. And the other thing that we need to think about is from what Dr. Gashie said, we must make sure that the economy grow. If we want the manufacturer of mobile phones to be able to sell more phones, and therefore they are able to get higher income and therefore employ more people, we must make sure that those taxes do not cripple their businesses, so that those funds are achievable. So, for example, if we reduce this excise duty from 10, say even to 2%, it means those funds become affordable. What does that mean? Many people will afford. What does that mean to the company that is selling those funds? It means their sales increases. And what that means is that it has a multiple effect on the economy. More people are employed. And that is what we need to. And if that company make more sales, remember they will pay taxes at 30%. It means the tax that they pay to the government also increases.
But that's my problem. But that's my problem.